If you are new to the technical aspects of email tracing, what IP addresses are, etc., it's my hope that this video gives you a top-level understanding of what that is and points you in the direction that you can obtain more information. To make it easier to view the video, I'd suggest that when you start the video, go to the bottom right of the little screen and you'll see that square there. Click on that to make it full screen. That way you'll be able to actually see what I'm pointing at. It's all too common today for individuals to receive disturbing emails from persons who are hiding behind some anonymous email name. And the first thing you might get asked is, can you find out who sent this? And your answer should be, quite possibly. There are things that we can do to try to determine this. In this video, we're only going to concentrate on IP address identification. We're not going to talk about the other routes, which are all very important to total success, but we're going to concentrate on what an IP address is and how you can attempt to identify it. An IP address, short for Internet Protocol Address, is an identifying number for a piece of network hardware. Having an IP address allows a device to communicate with other devices over an IP-based network like the Internet. So at home, most of us have a router. That router is given an IP address by the Internet provider, such as Charter or AT&T, whoever you have. And that number can change over time. A lot of them, they don't remain the same. But by knowing the date and time that an IP address was used, the investigator going through the company could possibly identify the person that has that account. In other words, who's paying the bill for that IP address. Even without the input of the company, you also could determine from the IP address a general geographical location, like the city and state that the IP address is assigned to. To attempt to find the originating IP address, you must open up what's called the email header. And shown here are the types of things that are contained in email header, including the originating IP. It'll depend on whether or not you use the subject uses a web-based email program or maybe a standalone program as to whether or not you'll actually get the very originating location or whether you'll get, for example, the Gmail location or the Yahoo location shown as the starting location for that particular email. Most email programs have a different way of opening up the source code, and you can simply Google the name of your email program and ask how to get the header, and you'll get that information. I'll also supply in the links section links to the most commonly used email programs or services and how to open up their header. In this example, we're looking at a Gmail. If you go over to the right there where those three dots are, go down to Show Original, and that opened up all this text here, which is in fact the header information. And in that header information, as has been shown earlier, there's a number of different types of information, including the type of email program that might be used, the type of computer that might be used, the originating IP address, and the route that that particular message took to get to the final receiver. It's important to try to save that header information in a manner that you can then use it in a text file or to copy and paste it into different programs. And in Gmail, you can download the original, you can copy it. As shown here, there's up in the upper right, there's a copy button you can push, or you can just copy it and paste it. Copy, and then go paste it into a Word document. But when you talk to your clients, that's the format you want that header information sent to you in, not as a screenshot if all possible. You want to have the raw data in a text format. Now here's a reason you want it in text format. You can then copy and paste it into a program like IP2 Location, which does an analysis of the header information, and it puts it in a format that makes it easy for you to understand, showing the route that it took, and the originating IP address in this particular case. So that is why you want it in text format. Now, I mentioned earlier that if you have a standalone program like Thunderbird here or Outlook, that it's not a web-based program, it's not through your browser, you have a chance then of getting the originating IP address. If you're using a browser-based program, that means you're using Safari, you're using Chrome, and then you're going to Gmail, then you're likely to just get the Gmail address as the originating address, or Yahoo, or whatever it is that you're using. In this case, we're using a standalone program called Thunderbird, and this bad guy's writing a nasty note to someone, sending it, and so it's a standalone program. The person receives it on his Gmail, opens it up, says, oh my, I've got a bad email here, I wonder where that came from, goes over, clicks on those three dots, and goes show original. So he's got the original data there. He's going to copy that, and he's going to paste it into that program that we talked about earlier and see if he can determine where that might have come from. And indeed, in this case, it shows that it originated, the IP address is right there on top, and it was in Petoskey, Michigan, through Charter Communications, and then it shows that it bounced down into, as you can see here, the suspect's IP address on top. The Google IP address is where it went second stop before it came back to the receiver. If the unknown sender is using a cell phone, however, he's hooked into the wireless service at some location, like his house, and a lot of times you default it so that if you're home, you use the wireless service, and you use the program that came with the phone, a standalone program, to send your message, as opposed to getting into the browser on your phone and sending it. You then can hopefully find his or her original IP address. So the receiver checks the source header, the header information, and then puts it into the program. And again, in this case, it'll show that it came from the originating IP address in Petoskey, and that's because he was using the wireless service and a standalone program on his phone. Now, if the suspect uses a web-based browser to send his Gmail or email, using Chrome or possibly Firefox, and he sends it through that manner, then what you find when you get and you examine the header information from the Gmail is that instead of showing the initial IP address of the sender, it will show you the IP address of Gmail or Yahoo as being the originating one. For some reason, they strip away the original IP address when it comes to into their servers, and then it sends it from their servers showing their IP address as the originating IP. Now, in order to obtain the subscriber information from the internet service provider, you would need either a search warrant or a subpoena. And in the case where it's like Gmail or Yahoo, you would need to first go to them with a search warrant or subpoena to try to obtain the originating IP address that came into them. And then you would have to, once you have the originating IP address, go to that internet provider, and again, with a search warrant or subpoena, search warrant if you're law enforcement, try to obtain the subscriber information. Here are some things to keep in mind while doing these investigations. The subject may be using a virtual private network, a VPN, which in that case, you're not going to find his IP address. Even his internet provider couldn't give it to you because it's hidden from them also. The analyzer that I used works for me. I tried several other ones which gave me bad information. So you want to check those out before you try to depend on them for trying to get a search warrant or a subpoena. So test them with information that you do know. And really, you should research this whole issue further and learn how to analyze the headers just by reading them on your own. And it's not that difficult, really. The analyzers that, like the one I show you, can give you an idea of where to look for the information, and then you can get better at it by doing it yourself. And just because you may have identified who the subscriber is to that IP address does not mean that that's the person that sent the message. It could be anybody in this household who has access to the wireless. It could be a neighbor who somehow got access to his wireless, somebody, a friend or a relative who was over for a visit and sent a message while they were there. So it just gets you to the location where that IP address was used, but does not necessarily tell you that that was the person that sent it. And finally, I'm going to put up a list of links that can help you explore this whole area further. I don't have them up yet. In fact, I don't even have a header for links in my website yet, but it will be there. It's 12:30 on December 6th, maybe by tomorrow.